We are only missing Senator Fuller and Representative Sprunger. I don't think Senator Fuller could have made it this time. I'm not sure. I think that's what I heard, and I'm not sure about Representative Sprunger, so she might join. Um, I just wanted to start. We have nine of you, so we're good on a quorum. We do have one, two, three, four additional members of the public listening in. And we have several FWP staff online. We've introduced ourselves before, so I'm not going to go through them. I'm just going to say who's here. Chief Legal Jeff Hindoin's here. Legal Counsel Marty Tuttle. These are all FWP folks. Natalie Schoss again is here to take notes. Sam Haggett from POR, who runs our shooting program. Then we have Lena Havron again. She's our Chief Financial Officer, here for any financial funding questions. Pat Lucetti is our IT guy to run this. Renee Lemon is our Division Administrator for Parks and Outdoor Rec. And then we have myself facilitating. I think those are all I didn't miss any FWP folks. And then, of course, we have 9 of the task force members here, everyone minus Senator Fuller and Representative Sprunger. You guys can see, if you choose, who's attending to watch. Ryan Dorval is actually an FWP employee, and he's watching, and the other 4 are not FWP employees. At the end, I'm going to have anybody who's interested send me their email address so I could get them on a mailing list. I've been collecting interested parties on a mailing list that I could send out information to. Let's see. So we're just going to go through the agenda first. I hope everybody did receive that. Maybe I'll just share my screen really quick. Actually, I won't. I'll wait to do that so we could see each other. So really, we're just going to go, I just went through the introductions and the welcome. Representative Seekins Crow, do you want to say anything before I go through the agenda?
No, I just want to say thank you, though. You've been amazing putting it all together. Some of you know this, some of you do not. I just went through 2 surgeries in the past couple weeks. So I'm just so thankful for all the work that you've done. And I'm actually in my bed with my foot up because I just got back from PT. But the swelling's going down, so I'm making some progress. So thank you so much.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. I can't believe you had to go through a second surgery.
Me neither. I'm kind of a princess. I know you guys all know that.
Um, okay, so the agenda you have there, we're going to go through. Basically, today's agenda is hearing from Renee on some data that POR has collected for the task force. But really today is going to be focused on setting out the calendar for the rest of the year, identifying data needs, identifying meeting dates for the rest of the year, and potential field trips, and also identifying subcommittees that you think that you need. I do want to just, before we get into that, the rest of that agenda, and I turn it over to Representative Seekins Crow, the charter was signed by Representative Seekins Crow and Senator John Fuller as co-chairs of the task force. That is up on that website that FWP is maintaining for the task force. I don't think I sent it out to you guys because I don't think I got the last signature by the time I sent you all the agenda for this meeting. So I will send it to you to make sure that you have the final one because we tweaked the language at that last meeting. And then that's all I have right now. I'm going to turn it over to Representative Seekins Crow to approve the notes for from the last meeting that I did send out to all of you.
Okay, is there any discussion about the notes from the last meeting at this time? So I'm just going to move that we go ahead and pass or pass the notes as they are. Does anybody have any objection? We'll just do it that way. If there's any objection, please raise your hand or just speak up at this point. Seeing none, moved, passed. Notes can go in the record as official.
Okay. Thank you. And I think you're right, Representative. I think that's the way to do it. If there's any objection, that's probably the way we're gonna move. It'll be easier since not everybody has their camera on either. And I'll keep track of the hands raised as much as
Okay.
I can. We're going to move on to Renee Lemon. She's going to go over the visitation data and the survey that was requested by you guys. She put together a proposal that I sent out to you to collect some data from shooting ranges. So, Renee.
Good evening, task force members. Renee Lemon here, Parks and Outdoor Rec Division Administrator. Happy to be here. So, at your last meeting, you all noted that you would like information such as use and demand at our shooting range facilities. So, estimated number of people, for example, that are using our shooting facilities, what those existing facilities look like, and then unmet needs. And so during this part of the meeting, I'm going to walk you through visitation data that Sam Hoggett has put together, and then also walk you through a proposal to put out a survey to collect more information. So we're going to start with the visitation data, and I will share my screen. Okay, I'm going to make that just a little bigger so everybody can see it. Okay, so this first table here has the 10 FWP shooting ranges, which we talked about at your last meeting. And so the first 4 ranges that are on this list are operated by clubs. So Sam reached out to them and asked them to estimate their number of shooters. And then you can see that Whitaker provided an actual count because they have staff at their office. And so anytime a shooter comes on the range, they need to check in at the office. So they're able to get an actual count, which is very nice. And then at our Glendive shooting range and Makoshika archery range, we have vehicle counters. So we were able to use vehicle counts to estimate the number of shooters at those ranges. And then staff at Montana Wild estimated their archery range shooter numbers. And then you can see that there are 3 ranges where we just were not able to estimate shooters at those ranges because we just don't have enough staff presence to be able to get that estimate. So that's the first table. And then the second table provides some information. Sam reached out to a handful of private shooting ranges across the state and was able to put together some estimates. And again, these are based on folks that run those shooting ranges based on their estimates of annual shooters at their ranges in 2025. So this just gives you a sense for information, but obviously we're not able to give you complete information at this time. And so one thought that you've all had is to put out a survey. So I'm going to share that.
Mitch, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. A question for Renee or Sam, I guess. When you say shooters, are you talking about shooter days or how's that broken down, or did you try to get that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and Sam, you can chime in here. So typically, as you're probably well aware, Mitch, Shooting ranges look at shooter days. However, when we're reaching out to folks, it's often easier to ask them about how many people are coming to shoot at their range. We found that makes a little bit more sense to them and they're not used to the term shooter days. And Sam, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, it's just some of the folks around our local ranges here in Montana just aren't familiar with shooter day or the term, and so I just asked them how many different folks are coming in there annually as an estimate to see how many people are shooting at that range.
Thank you.
Okay, so I've got up the survey proposal. So the purpose would be to gain a general sense of the use and needs at Montana shooting range facilities. So we'd be asking again about numbers. We'd be asking about their existing facilities, so the range types, for example. And then we'd be asking about the maintenance and development needs. And the idea here is to give you all some information for your work, not necessarily to do an inventory. We're not trying to inventory all of the facilities across the state, but give you guys a general sense for what's out there and what the needs are, just given the timeline. So we're proposing to do this pretty quickly and have you some results back by, and you'll be looking at your timeline later, but it looks like April is what's penciled in right now. Basic methodology that we're proposing is to identify participants. So these would be shooting range clubs and compile contact information. Now we have a start on that through our programs and then through putting together the map that we showed you at the last meeting. But that will take a bit of work and a lot of phone calls to get a hold of these folks. And then we need your help to design the survey itself, make sure everybody's comfortable with the questions. And then we're proposing an online survey. So there would be a link that people could click on. It's just much easier and more efficient to very quickly compile and summarize that information. Yeah, Rich.
Hey, just really quick, Renee, and maybe I'm stating the obvious, but is how difficult is the technology for like QR codes, where like if that was set up at a place, we could not only a user of it, but the manager of the site, how easy that would be to then they could do it on their own time type of thing. I guess the link is the same, but is a QR code considered at all?
We're probably going to use SurveyMonkey, and I'm not a technology person. I'm guessing that there's probably QR code functionality, but definitely an easy link that they can click on in their own time.
Christy?
I have a couple questions. I'm looking at the results that you put together from just the shooting ranges and the numbers, the higher numbers, it looks like they probably are indoor ranges. And so I was wondering if we could add more questions about indoor versus outdoor ranges for the survey to see the need for that.
Yes, absolutely. We could definitely do that.
Great point.
Okay, so continuing on with the methodology. So once we've got our survey link, we'll send that out. I think the benefit of having a link or a QR code is also that we could rely on yourselves and organizations to also push that link out. Thinking about the Montana Shooting Sports Association as an example, if they could push that out to their membership, that would be really helpful. We are anticipating that we're going to have to make quite a few follow-up calls, just given that these are many times volunteer organizations, realizing that people have day jobs and just the need to do a lot of follow-up to make sure we're really maximizing the number of people that we can get to take the survey. And then finally, we'll compile and summarize those results for you all to consider in your work. And then we've started to put together some basic example questions to think about. Something I've learned throughout doing surveys is trying to keep it smaller so we're not asking too much of people, really getting it down to those critical questions that we want to ask. So first question is based on the best available data, how many people would you estimate use your shooting range annually? The next question relates to the types of existing shooting disciplines that are at the shooting range currently. Question 3 gets to what types would they want to add to their shooting facility. The fourth is amenities. So amenities such as an educational space, maybe for some hunter education, restroom facilities, that kind of thing. So 4 is what do you have currently, and 5 is what would you want to add. 6 is a fill in the blank. So what are your top 3 maintenance or development projects that you would like to complete at your range? 7 relates to funding. So how does your club currently fund maintenance and development projects? And then I think it's always nice to add, do you have anything else you would like to add? We also need to add in a little bit of basic information, like what is the name of your shooting range and where is it located? So we'll make sure to include that. But again, this is really just a starting point for you all to consider.
Right. And Seth, Andy, you guys are the ones that have, of course, done a lot of shooting at a lot of different ranges. Also, Christy, if you guys can really kind of take a look at those ones that talking about, the shooting range, that would be great. I know Mitch, you might be able to add into that as well. But even the amenities, I mean, I go and shoot, but you guys are the experts in that area as to what you'd like to see or what you'd like to know what they have as we go forward in trying to find out as much information. So I'm going to kind of lean on those of you guys who are experts to make sure that we have the best possible survey going forward.
I'm gonna pick on Rich. He had his hand up first.
Just a really quick question in terms of the questions, and maybe it can be in there. I see restroom facilities, but what about waste management in terms of brass, garbage, things like that? Would that be just implied in there somewhere that you think people would respond to that, or is that something having to be put in there? Just a question.
Yeah, that's a good question, Rich. So we could add trash facilities. I think that's what you're speaking to. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's just something to keep the places looking nice so that they don't, like people pick up after themselves. I don't know, that type of thing.
Yeah, great addition. Thank you.
And Seth?
Yeah, I had a couple comments. So I think to start, we should probably define who we want to be filling this out. I think it's the intention that this is going to either managers or administrator types, potentially members of an existing shooting range. Was that the design behind it? So I kind of think we need 2 surveys. They can be very similar, but we need one that's going to administrator, board member, somebody that's in charge of or is part of running a shooting facility that's existing. And then I think we also should do a very similar survey, maybe in a slightly different format for shooters, or even if they're members of a shooting range. Because I think the half of the equation is what do we have, and what does the club like and want, and then the other half is, well, what do the members want, which may or may not be the same thing. For instance, a couple of the things I was thinking about for just shooter participation, whether they're a member of a club or not, are things like, do you use non-traditional races? Are you shooting on the prairie or in the woods or at a not designated shooting facility, to try and get an idea of whether those people are being served by a current range or not. Because I think the numbers, part of what we're looking for is how many shooters are there demographically in certain areas, and then are they being served? And if the numbers are lower somewhere else, is that because there's no range that's reporting those people shooting? Are they shooting somewhere else? Would they like to be shooting, but they don't have anywhere to shoot? So I'll I'll submit some like questions, I think, to try and get at maybe specific range uses just from having used ranges to try and get at maybe more specifics. Um, and I can submit those. For instance, things like pistol bays, whether it's a flat range where people can just sort of shoot at a target in sort of a unidirection, or if it's more of an action shooting pistol bay in the traditional sense where they can do action, 180-degree shooting, active shooting, like action pistol type stuff. So I think that would be helpful. I am sensitive to not making this a huge giant survey. So maybe if it can just be check interested areas or, make it easy where people don't even necessarily need to fill out every single part of it if they don't care. It's, if you're interested in or would like, what do you have? What would you like to see? Areas where you would like to see improvement with your facility or additional availability so that we can start to see where the spikes are, as we submit this. So kind of a lot of different, it's sort of my broad comments encompassing all of it. But I think, for instance, we could take out some of the, like internal roads and campsites, and are people looking for that in a range if it's individuals? And then we can put that out to the general public, gun stores, the more people we can get to fill out, the better.
Before I call on Andy, I thank you, Seth, for that. I think you made a really good point that, the shooters or the users of these facilities might not be wanting the same thing as maybe the facility wants. I think where we're going to struggle, and Renee chime in, is I don't know how we're going to be able to get shooters that aren't using facilities that may use the facilities in the future. That's a hard demographic to be able to target. I don't know if Renee had an idea on how we could do something like that, but that's going to be a very difficult demographic, or the people that might use a shooting facility if they had the wants and needs. Renee,
I can
don't know if
chime in real quick, but
yeah,
I'm guessing other members might have some ideas here.
yeah,
I had
that's
the
what I'm
same
thinking.
thought that you did at first, but then as I listened to Seth, I was hearing, maybe we just have a general public survey that's up on our website that members of the task force can put out. Maybe the clubs themselves would be willing to put out to their members. I don't know. Those are just some
Yep.
thoughts.
The members we could get, I think it's the others, and we do have a human dimensions unit, so we can actually talk with them to see if we could do a random survey to the general public as well. So we'll check that out. But Andy, go ahead.
There we go. Can you hear me now? All
We
right.
can.
Yep.
Thank you. Listening to what Seth said and what we've already looked at, I was thinking exactly what Renee just brought up. There's probably two surveys, one to the range facilities themselves, but I've already had members of the public reaching out to me. Somehow they caught wind of this task force. People I know contact me and say, hey, I want to talk to you about this. We haven't started our social media campaign and page yet. That was one of the subcommittees that we're putting together. But that would be another place that we could do some promotion of that, and also asking those questions, creating some polls. That'd be the easiest way. There's going to be a lot of legwork for somebody if it makes it a public poll, because public comment periods can be pretty extensive at times. But I do think it's a good idea to find out what's happening, especially for those people, as Seth mentioned. I think he mentioned it this way, at least it made me think of it. People that are out shooting in the woods, people that are in the gravel pits and wherever else they are. How can we best meet their needs, bring that into a more sustainable type of activity and environment? Some of them, they're never going to want to stop doing that, and that's understandable. I might be one of those at times. But I think a public poll and our social media platform will be a place to use that as well. That's all I had to say.
That's a really good point. Thank you. Next is Christy.
So a couple things. We actually don't shoot at a range. We shoot in the woods. So we're one of those people. So we don't drive to Boulder to shoot, things like that. So I think probably what Seth said about working with, places like Sportsman's Warehouse or any of the places that are, hunting and fishing places probably would be a good avenue as well. But back to the survey too, I was thinking maybe we need to think a little bit bigger too. I was talking, we were just at SHOT Show and I was talking with Nephi and he was discussing a couple other ranges. And I was talking to another guy that is a pro shooter talking about some other ranges. And one guy said one of their ranges has a facility where people can get married. I mean, don't know who wants to do that, but we might need to, I know we want to talk about the current ranges, but I guess my thought with this task force is also to think about a big future, some big range too, as a goal. So I don't want to be too narrow with some of our thoughts. So
Thank you. Before getting to Mitch, I just want to point out that Rich said in the webinar chat, what about a QR code at places where people purchase ammo to get a different get that demographic that might not be shooting at a facility. So that's another idea. Mitch.
Well, I think everybody's sort of said said what I was thinking about, but I'll say it again just to say it. I think the survey that Renee and Sam have put together, proposed survey, focuses more on ranges than on shooters, and I do believe the idea of some sort of method of getting a set of questions out to shooters is where we need some additional information on it. So in addition to what Renee's has provided, maybe something like that. And I love the ideas that have popped up so far. The idea of a QR code at ammo places where people purchase ammo. Hunters are shooters, but not all shooters are hunters. So the hunting licenses that you have, the information there might be a good source. And just on the web page in general, a QR code where somebody can scan and go in and answer a series of questions if they hear about the effort, and then we can pass that around to just about everybody that has anything to do with shooting. But I do believe it is important to try to get sort of the breadth of interest across the state of Montana in from shooters. How are they interested in this? Are they interested in smaller ranges? Are they interested in larger ranges? As Christy referred to, there are some ranges where you can get just about anything happening at some of those ranges. So anyway, yeah, I think we've sort of turned into the right direction here with the last few comments.
Thanks, Mitch. I also will say that Senator Curdy put something in the chat about official or questions to include about official shooting contests. So that might be another question for the actual ranges if they have any if they hold any shooting contests at the ranges. And I think that's a really good question as well. And it sounds like to me is that the task force is recommending 2, perhaps 3, but maybe at least 2 surveys, one for the manager, administrator of the range, and one for the public. And maybe it can be the same survey. And I'm looking at Renee, and we have a question on that survey saying, do you shoot at a range? If not, where do you shoot? And then they could continue answering maybe questions, and we could use the same survey. I don't know. That's something to think about as well, instead of having 3 surveys going on. And we could identify the range shooters versus the public land shooters in the same survey. Renee, I guess I'll get back to you. How do you want to do this? When do you need some feedback? When would you like to finalize the survey? That is why I pushed out the result date so far, because I know it's going to take some time. So do you want the entire group to get back to you on suggestions, or how would you like to work this, Renee?
I guess I might throw that back as I'm not sure. It sounds like there's some interest from some of the members and being more involved. Like I see Seth has his hand up right now. So if we're trying to get something done by April, we were thinking about putting the survey out for like 30 days. And so maybe we put it out in the month of March, just throwing that out there as a starting point for conversation. And so in order, we'd probably need to have our two surveys is what I'm hearing, ready to go by mid-February so we could get those into our system and get the link and the QR code set up. Those are my
Maybe I'll
thoughts.
just ask at this point if you guys could let us know if you're interested in being on the survey committee. I mean, I could appoint some people right away, like those of you who had great ideas when you raised your hands. But who's interested in being on that? I'm already going to appoint Seth. Is that okay, Seth?
Yep, sounds good to me.
Okay. Christy, are you interested in that? Who else wants to be on there? Willis, do you want to be on there? Or Andy, or even
I think Mitch had his hand up as well.
yeah, Mitch?
I would do it too. Sorry, I couldn't get my phone to work.
Okay, or Richard. I'm not sure. You tell us who's interested. I'm going to work, I think, with Courtney on the PR side of it. But if you guys could definitely work on that side of it, that would be wonderful. Is there anybody who doesn't want to do that? I just listed your names. You're like, Carrie, we're not putting you in charge of anything again.
So the names I definitely had were Seth, Christy, and Mitch. Senator Curdy, did you want to do this? And Andy, yes, okay, and Andy too?
No,
No, okay.
Okay.
I was going to say, let me stick with the PR part of it
Okay.
to back up everything else that you're
Perfect.
doing there. Then we can sell it and put our energies there
Yes.
on that part.
So put me, Courtney, Andy on that. Richard, I just wanted to ask if you're interested as well.
Yes, I'm happy to be on it.
Okay.
If I know how it can be with too many kitchen or chefs in the kitchen type of thing, but I'm happy to be involved wherever I can be useful.
Okay. I think that's a good start there. If there's anybody else that wants to kind of, just, I think that Seth, can I kind of put you in charge of,
Yep.
getting it headed down in the right direction and then getting the information from people, having them take a look at it? Because I really do think at least two are a really good place. And the thing is that with having input from the public, it helps them feel like they've been a part of this, and we do start to figure out what their needs are, how they can be involved, and then that actually gives us a ground floor as we go about making the decisions to announce it to those folks as well. So I'm really excited about that. Thank you, Seth, for doing that.
So just to make sure I have it, I have Seth as the chair, and then Christy, Mitch, Senator Curdy, and Rich on that subcommittee, the survey subcommittee.
Sounds good to me.
And then Mitch, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, just one thing I'd like to ask the agency, if you could use your demographic experts to sort of put together a strategy for getting the survey out. I think that would be really helpful as we get into this. I mean, other than just sending it out to the ranges, what's the best way to get to all the shooters in the state of Montana?
Sure, we could reach out to Mike Lewis, and I think Mike Lewis would like to be involved in, I mean, this is his bailiwick. He would like to probably be involved in making sure the questions are crafted in a certain way as well to get to the answers that we need. So maybe Renee and the subcommittee can work with Mike on that. Andy.
Mandy Rambo may have some information on how to get it out to the right people as well. I'm just guessing, Mandy. I don't know if hopefully I'm not throwing you under the bus there. But
Well, thank you, Representative. Yeah, I don't know that we would have the right audiences for our Gov delivery, but we would be happy to share it out in any of our Gov delivery. We do have a weekly roundup that we send out, and we'd be happy to include it in that or our external newsletter. So any of our communications at Commerce, we could definitely include it.
Oh yeah, that would be exciting. That
Oh,
would be
and we'd be willing to share on our socials as well. So however we can help would be great.
perfect.
That's great. Andy, you're muted still.
My mistake. I didn't mean to hit the hand button.
Okay.
I withdraw my hand.
No worries. Seth, you're up.
Yeah, just a quick, I think to maybe maximize time and effort, I think the shooting range survey should really be sort of one official survey per range. And so designating it as, an administrator or someone that is speaking on behalf, so we don't get, 20 or 30 surveys from each range. Everyone that's a member is submitting a range survey. I think we should try and get them to do some legwork either with their members or their board or, if it's one guy that runs the range so that we aren't trying to wade through a bunch of crazy surveys. But at the same time, it would be a good time to compile our sort of list or start compiling our list of anyone that submits as an interested range administrator that they would then go on our list of all of the ranges available. So I think the outreach for ranges could be fairly minimal. We know most of them or a lot of them. If you're a private range, I think they can still submit if it's not open to the public. And then when we get to the public side facing, I think that goes with Andy and the public relations side. If that's going out to gun stores, ammo stores, gun shops, shooting organizations, the underground, whatever. So I think we can keep the one fairly concise, and then the public one can be more broad, and we can really just solicit everybody.
Okay, any more comments on that before I guess, ask Renee some questions? I want to make sure Renee has what she needs to move this forward.
I
So
have
what I'm
one question.
go
Sorry,
ahead.
I can't
Go ahead.
figure out how to raise my hand again.
Okay, that's okay.
One question was, when do we want to have our questions, like our little subcommittee? What date? So
That's where I was going with Renee. So
Thank you.
I think Renee will probably be the FWP contact for this subcommittee. So I'll let her speak and maybe just reach
Actually,
out to
Deb,
folks
if
that-
you wouldn't mind scheduling it, that would be
Yeah, I could
awesome.
do that. I could
Yeah,
do
if
that.
you
I
wanted to
can put that
kind
as
of be the
info.
contact and schedule it, and then I'm happy to show up and help make sure that we provide the agency support that you guys need.
Will do. So after this meeting, I'll make sure that I reach out to the 1, 2, 3, 5 of you, Renee, and then our human dimensions expert internally, and schedule another Zoom meeting for the subcommittee. And we'll probably have to do it as soon as possible. Like Renee said, if we want to have it out for 30 days and then do some follow-up calls to the actual shooting ranges, we'll want to get this out pretty quickly.
And Seth, I don't know if you want to start, it seems like you've got some pretty good ideas in your mind about particularly what the public shooter questions might look like. I think the more we can, if you could get a draft started or just some ideas down on paper, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll plan to do that before we even get to our next meeting and email those out. That shouldn't take more than a couple days. And then once we get it scheduled, obviously people are going to have feedback and things I won't think of, but I'll take a crack at it.
Okay.
And
Any
I'll
more
have,
of that?
oh, I was
Go
just
ahead.
gonna say, and I'll have Courtney head up the PR, if that's okay, Andy, if we have Courtney do that. And then at the same time, we'll start coming up with the ideas, of course. And Mandy, if we can we put you on that committee as well with myself, Andy, and Courtney for the PR side of it? Is that okay?
Yep, I can be on that one.
Okay, I think that would be just really wonderful if we did that. And then we will start coming up with the idea. See, that's what Courtney gets for not being on the phone call today. But we'll start coming up with the ideas of how to go forward with this as well, so that when we're ready to go, we can hit the go button.
And I'll be sure, toward the end of this call, one of the things I'm asking you all to think about and do is to develop any other subcommittees that needs to be developed. So we'll talk about that at the end, and I'll be sure I'll be the point person on getting those all scheduled. And I'll sit on, most of them with you guys to help
Perfect.
you walk through. So I'll definitely get all these scheduled at the end. You guys might identify more subcommittees as we go through today.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, Renee, anything else or you good? Okay. So the timeline I sent out, and I will share my screen for this. I just wanted to go over a couple things on that. Let me just share my screen here. And I have some comments on mine that you won't see on yours because I was trying to figure out what I needed to say about this. So, put this out of the way. Hold on, sorry. There we go. Okay, so I put a lot of thought into this on what you all needed to do in order to accomplish writing that recommendation document in time for the end of October. I want to just go over a couple things. These dates are just placeholders. I just kind of threw dates out when I was doing this. These are not set in stone. Basically, I just picked Mondays so we could look at the entire week of these. If those weeks don't work, that's okay. It's very flexible. I just wanted to throw some dates on here so you had an idea of when we might be meeting and when milestones might need to be met. So these dates on the left are just that. They're just placeholders. This timeline.
Deb, I'll also have you send out, we'll do a Survey Monkey. I'll kind of give her the week that we need to look at in the month. And we'll do a Survey Monkey to see if we can get the most there. And of course, remember, if you can't make the meeting, then we've also got the Zoom option as well. But we will do that.
Thank you. The other thing is this timeline is likely going to be tweaked based on the information that you guys are gathering, either from the survey or from other states. And it's going to be tweaked on what you know and how far along we are. So just keep that in mind. We might want to revisit this timeline every meeting and change some things. The first question I had before we get into what's in those little bubbles there is that end date of October 30th. I know you talked about that being the end date, but then there was some discussion at the last meeting about even bumping it sooner. Hopefully not a lot sooner because you guys have a lot of work to do still, but about bumping it up sooner so it's not right up against the election date. Is there some more talk about that? Did you want to shoot for this date or did you want to shoot for an earlier date? Go ahead, Seth.
I'll chime in, I guess. Just thinking about the legislative process, I don't know that we need to have anything out prior to this. No, there's not really going to be any legislative oversight, overview. Honestly, even until, the year's end between the election and swearing in, if it's a new legislator, they have no idea what's going on yet. They're still doing orientations and figuring everything out in terms of what they're going to do. This is just going to be lost in the mix. So honestly, I think we could probably push this until even the end of the year at the latest, having it a little sooner and polished. I think it needs to be ready for the legislature to be submitted to the appropriate, committee, subcommittee, legislators, if there's a group that's going to push it forward. I think that's when we would need to have this finished essentially by the 1st of January to be ready for the session. So that's, I think, my feedback from that perspective. I don't think we need to push it forward at all. So
Anyone else? I guess Rich, go ahead.
Well, forgive me, everybody. I'm a little bit new to all of this, but Seth, I know what you're saying, and maybe someone in the group uh, could maybe talk about, because as I'm kind of learning here, some of this stuff needs to be brought in maybe a little bit sooner than that, so that things can be processed. Again, I'm not as familiar as I probably should be yet, so I just wanted to maybe open up to someone else who might be on the call that could talk a little, that's been through one of our legislative sessions about having this stuff timely, I guess.
I think kind of addressing both what Seth and Richard, what you guys were both talking about, there is, because there's going to still be a lot of conversation at that point. If we say this is what a recommendation will be, that's not necessarily what's going to come out in the wash, because there's going to have to be a lot of discussions at that point. Some things we may not need legislation for, some things we may need for. Maybe we've got a great big plan, or we're looking at grants as well coming into this. And so, because we can come up kind of with a plan by the end of the year that we can deal with during the legislative session. And we will kind of already have that big idea, I think. So, working with Seth and with Willis and with Courtney, we as legislators will kind of, know which direction we need to pursue at that point, I believe. What do you guys think? Willis, you may have some input here.
No, thanks. I just sent a note on the chat about as Carrie and Courtney and myself know, the last couple sessions we've had a lot of bills through, and boy, I tell you what, on something like this, I appreciate to have us done a little earlier so we can get a draft going before the big push comes.
Are you holdover, Willis?
No, I have, I'm running for.
You're running again. Okay. Okay. Well, we can, I think whatever we can get done. I mean, if we need to, continue doing some work, we can, but I do think, and Seth, tell me what you think, if we are pushing kind of for the end of October at that point, that we would be okay if we push for the end of October. But if it has to go over any further than that, would be okay. What do you think, Seth?
yeah, I was gonna say the only other question I have is, do we need to have anything ready for subcommittees, joint subcommittees, interim committees? Is there a desire to try and get this into any of because I know that we have reporting requirements that we've added like in the charter, or is that something, Carrie, that you were seeing as those reports would be sent as sort of a notification, and then we would deal with any of that would be dealt with in the next biennium, so after this next legislative session, or are we trying to get this into the subcommittees or interim committees to potentially draft any legislation?
Well, my thought is that the more information that we get out, so maybe if we did hit Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, and maybe even, which ones were the ones that we needed, Deb? Was it FWP and?
It was hearing committees. It was EQC and the governor and, you guys added EQC actually.
Yeah,
EQC.
joint appropriations, natural resources, transportation, joint fish, wildlife, EQC, economic affairs interim.
Mm-hmm.
So if I just had this information together for basically the last interim committees of those, which are probably September, October, but we can. What do you think, Seth?
Yeah, I think I think we could shoot for that. I don't know that we're going to have a recommendation in terms of this is what we think you should do by September. That seems really, really quick. And I think the goal should be, if there's something that's going to require legislation that comes out of this, that we would present it in enough time for the legislature to be able to make an adjustment if that's needed. If it can be handled administratively, and that's great, but if we need to, something needs to be tweaked legislatively, I think if we can have this done prior to the session with enough time for people to put in bill drafts or look at carrying some legislation, then I think that's the goal ultimately.
Okay. So, Deb, if you could just
Carrie?
take a look and see when those committee meetings are, that'd be great. I'm sorry, Willis, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It would be nice if we have something in mind for the last interim committee meetings, mid-September, so committees get an idea of what we've been doing.
Yep.
And maybe even an interim committee might say, here's something we'd like to have the task force add to a potential bill. So I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I agree. That's good.
Okay, I will find out when those dates are for those interim committees and get that out to you ASAP.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so for right now, I mean, it's still, it can be changed forward, back, whatever you guys want. Just remember the bill says that you have through June 30th, 2027. So you guys are overachievers turning this in way early already. So, but based on that is how I filled out the rest of this flow chart, basically. I was being data heavy up front to make sure that you had all the information you needed to make informed decisions going forward. So out of state presentations, I know Jeff Hindoin is talking with other states about presenting to you guys, and maybe several other states presenting to you guys on what they did and how they did it, and maybe learn from their process. So he's talking to them, and at the same time, while talking to them about maybe presenting to you all, he's asking about the willingness for them to host a field trip as well. The easiest ones for us would probably like be South Dakota, for instance. But he's talking to them as well about hosting field trips. So anyway, like I said, I'm data heavy on the front, and I was talking to Representative Seekins-Crow earlier today. It's a natural part of us to want to jump to solutions right away. And that's why we're doing that survey. We want to make sure that you have the needs of the public before jumping to those solutions. So based on the survey results and based on even public input at these meetings and or public input on draft documents that you all make, I think one of the things to do instead of jumping right into the solutions, and I have this at April 6th, but develop a document based on that public input of high level needs for the public, long range shooting or more pistol bays, whatever it might be, but get those buckets of high level needs for the public or that the public is interested in. Maybe you guys decide to send that out for public comment on those drafts to get more input from the public, and we would post that on our website and get input. And then at each meeting after this, I would summarize that public input for you, or the public comment received, and you could take that to help you develop future documents. May 4th, again, subcommittee reports, depending on how many subcommittees you want, but we would also have subcommittee reports and also review and revise the next steps as we go. And then on June 1st, I figured we can, based on more information, you could reframe and edit those high-level public needs. And then we get into the real nitty-gritty here in the next meeting, where you're drafting an outline. And by drafting an outline, I mean, I'm your scribe. You guys are drafting the outline, but I'll actually be putting it together for you all for the recommendation document. And I would be, in between all these meetings, I would be sending back to you based on what you give me. I would just be sending you the draft for input and edits. Having another field trip in August, and then have a close to final draft in September, and the final draft submitted to the entire task force for review, for one last review at the beginning of October. This is all can be tweaked. This was just me sitting alone, knowing how I've put together past proposals in the past. So this is for you to comment on and tweak and develop as we go. And again, I could put together another subcommittee to work on this for the whole group, or we could just do it here. I don't know what your pleasure is, Representative Carrie Seekins-Crowe.
So what are your initial questions that you have right now or comments about this right now? Will you trust Deb and I to kind of put this together if we were to do this, to kind of finalize this? Or is there somebody who also wants to be working with Deb and myself to pull this together? Or you can send me or Deb comments at any time as well, or call us up on the phone. What are you guys thinking?
I have confidence in you and Deb doing it.
And I'll give you a little bit more background. You know, we talked about in the charter to have the why behind your recommendations, and that's why you need to really develop those public needs that you've heard. You need to develop those out, so that's the why that supports your recommendations.
Yeah, I would be good with you two working this up. It's obviously going to change. I don't think we don't know what we don't know at this point, but at least this lays out some general ideas of what our timelines might look like, and then gives us something to shoot for. And I think as we start to gather data and figure out what our timelines look like, we can sort of update it to be more specific.
It will definitely get tighter and tighter the closer to the end we get.
But generally, I think it looks pretty good.
And don't hesitate to reach out to me if you've got comments or had a revelation in the middle of the night that I need to know. Don't hesitate.
Mitch, go ahead.
Yeah, just following up on something I saw in the chat and trying to look past all of the data gathering towards solutions, Deb, and making sure we don't miss an opportunity. I have absolutely no idea what we're talking about when we start talking about timelines for legislation in the upcoming session. But is there or would we be missing something with this deadline if we decided that we wanted to start the process for something like Christy was talking about, a fairly significant range development that might be in that what Lena's talking about as long range building in section F?
Mm-hmm.
I think we can still implement that. I mean, Seth or Willis, you guys have even more experience within the legislature than I do. But that is definitely something that can be a part of this whole process. And if that's something that we decided that we needed to do, it would be part of a bill. It would be part of asking for money, probably from general fund, or if we're also looking for grants too, to help with that, you know, how we would tie that together. What do you think, Seth or Willis? You guys have had more experience than I have had.
Yeah, I think my thought was just that if we needed something legislatively, whether that's an appropriation authority or something, that it would be good to try and at least get that open. I mean, you can give permission to spend money without having to spend it. So I think it would be good to get to the point of we know where we might need to spend money, and then if there's a legislative requirement for that we would get it through this next session so that it doesn't push this whole thing out basically 2 years past. That was kind of my thought process. If we can come up with a pretty close recommendation, or at least get a direction of what we want to do or where we want to go or where we think we want to go, that we would be in time to take action on that if we needed to legislatively. versus pushing that out to 29 before you could even start a project. Because then, for a facility, then you're essentially pushing out a 2 or 3 year facility, 5 or 6 years from now, which is pretty far.
And hopefully those of us who are in the legislature too can really query our colleagues from other states who have done this successfully to kind of see how they did that, how they tied together either general funds along with PR, what that looked like, how they could do that. I think Wyoming funded it from their general fund. I wish that Nephi were on this phone call, but then they're using the PR funds for the to run the facility. I think that's what happened there. I'm not quite sure. I don't know how Colorado does it, and I don't know how South Dakota does it, but those are the questions that we can ask them as we go forward as well.
I would agree with what Seth had to say as far as the process. I
Okay.
think spot on.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, Representative Seekins-Crow and I will work on this timeline, and I will send out a doodle poll for those approximate dates. So you're gonna get, it's gonna have, well, I guess I could do it in one doodle. You're gonna have a lot of choices, put it that way. So,
And I'll help you kind of tie those down, Deb. So you and I
Okay.
will have a conversation beforehand.
Okay.
And Deb,
And I'll send that, yes, go ahead, Senator.
I'm sorry, just, again, I know you'll do this, but being mindful of when the interim committees are meeting,
Sure.
because there's going to be a lot going on. So we got a lot of things to dodge.
Yes, it's going to be tough to get all you guys together on a call or in person with all your busy schedules for sure, but I'll do my best.
No doubt
Okay.
you.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing here. And I have lots of windows open. Hold on. Okay, I think we only have a few members of the public on right now. Before we lose any, I would suggest to you guys if you would take public comment now, and then we could get back into the planning part of the group. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Okay. If any member of the public would like to offer comments to the task force, please raise your hand. And maybe they're just listening in and not wanting to provide any feedback to you. Just give it a few more seconds. Does any member of the public wish to provide any comment? Please raise your hand. If it's okay with the task force, maybe I'll check in at the end of the meeting too, just in case.
Yep, that'd be great.
Okay, so nobody's raising their hand right now, so we'll move on to the planning, continue planning this. The next piece I have on the agenda is identify needs in subcommittees. We've already identified a couple, and then select future meeting dates. But we'll skip the future meeting dates and we'll just do that through a doodle after Representative Seekins-Crow and I talk some more about that. So really, we're looking at identifying any data needs that we haven't already identified and are going to be collecting. So we're going to be collecting the information through the survey. We're reaching out to other states to provide presentations, and we're looking at the task force doing an in-state field trip and an out-of-state field trip. And I guess first I'll ask, are there any data needs that you think, and this is a kind of a crazy or a weird question because we don't know what we're going to collect yet, but is there anything that you guys can think of that we might be missing via the survey or via information from other states that you think we might need for you to make some decisions?
Deb, I can't figure out how to raise my hand again. I
Okay,
have
go
a
ahead.
question.
Go for
We
it.
learned about the PR money last time, and I was wondering if we could get a detailed list of how the PR money has been spent in the last 5 years. just to kind of help us so we know what we're working with. I know we had general numbers, but if we could get more of a detailed, I know that doesn't deal with the questionnaire, but I think that would really help us going forward.
So I'm going to have Lena maybe respond to that if she's still no, if she's still listening. There she
I'm
is.
here. Yeah, so let me see what I've already built. I don't know if I have 5 years built, but I might, and then I can get it to you rather quickly. And if I have to build 5 years, it might take me just a little bit more time, but I'll get it to you guys as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Great question.
Anything else that you think you might need to make some
Mandy, can I ask you a question, Mandy? I had just a brief conversation at a Christmas party with Tony, so who knows if either of us really remember it that well. Just about if there could be some, because I don't, like you said so well, Deb, I don't know what I don't know, but if there's some stuff that could come through either, because Sarah Swanson was there as well, so I was talking, it was Sarah, Tony, and myself, just asking for general information that could help us out as well. Specific, and maybe if you talk to Tony, he can tell you what he was thinking about, but getting some information from both the Department of Labor and the Department of Commerce, because you guys do have great information that may be able to help us as we go forward with this, some general statistics about Montana, or it might not necessarily be about the ranges, but it could be other information that could help us. Is there anything that's kind of jogging your mind on any of this?
You're still muted. Oh, there you go.
Sorry, Tony had not shared anything with me about that, but yes, we do have a number of different data sets. I mean, most of our data does come from Department of Labor or from the National Census, but I'd be happy to look into what we would have. Is there anything that you would be like looking for specifically, like number of people who have, number of people who have been involved in outdoor recreation over the last year or something like that? I am wondering if maybe ITRR at the University of Montana would maybe be the better fit versus some of the data sets that we have are going to be more about like workforce and like household makeup.
Yeah, and maybe that's where I can, use your expertise at, finding data that we didn't know was there, because I'm not sure what's there that can help us out as we go forward, so that we can even answer questions that we haven't even asked yet. So maybe, yeah, if you could just help us in that area, or maybe have that conversation with Tony about what we talked about. And I will talk to Sarah again as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. I will chat with Tony tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. And if you have anything else, if something you think about something that you might need for this group, please send it on to me and Representative Seekins Crow, and we can look into that for you. Okay. The next thing, subcommittees again, and maybe we won't have answers right now for that because maybe you're still thinking about what data we need to move this forward, but we have the, let me pull this up. We have the PR subcommittee, the social media subcommittee, Chair Sprunger, Seekins Crow, Larson, and Rambo. And then the survey would be Seth Christie, Mitch, Senator Curdy, and Rich. Is there any other needs that you could think of right now? I mean, we could create them as we go, but anything right now that you think we need to have another group work on? I'm happy to be working on the field trip stuff for you guys, so you don't need to worry about that. But I will ask you about field trips in a second. But anything else?
As we go forward, we may think of more, that become evident as we go forward. Um, and I can kind of think of them in my brain, but I'm not thinking it's time that we actually pull the trigger on actually, putting together the report or reporting to the committees, or it could be, I don't know. I mean, there's just so many things that it could be, but what do you guys think? Do you think that we just kind of wait to see what pops up at the time and where our interests lie instead of trying to guess what it could be? What do you guys think?
I'll take a crack. I think it comes down to what Deb, what you and FWP feel like you have a handle on or time to track down, for instance, what shooting ranges are in Montana, addresses, survey follow-up, etc. And then if there's an area where it really needs the committee's sort of collective input on how you want to do it, then I think that's where we would probably want to implement a subcommittee of if it's providing direction or clarity or something along those lines. So I think right now, until we get more data, I think I'm with Representative Seacon Crow. I think we don't really know what we don't know. So to have subcommittees is not going to be productive. I think between the range and PR, setting up programs for that is probably important. So I think we just figure it out as we move forward. And I think Deb, you can just let us know if you need clarity or you need us to sort of coalesce around something.
Sounds good. I do have a question for you all right now. Like I said, I just picked some random dates. I thought the out-of-state site, depending on what it is, and we still have to figure out where that's going to be, but would the beginning of May work for, or who wouldn't it work for to go on a field trip to out of state, say South Dakota or maybe another close state? That week, first-ish week of May 4th.
May 4th might not work for me, but even May 11th, we can take a look at that. If that, we'll send out a thing. But I mean, if we have to, I can make it work, or we could even do it later on in the week, and I can just end up there too.
I'm also tied up on the 4th too, so
Okay. And what
later
I
in the
would,
week or the next week's better for me.
what I would suggest is if you have concrete plans that we absolutely need to avoid, why don't you send me those dates? Everybody should send me those dates, and we'll do our best. I mean, like Representative Seekins Crow said, not everybody's going to make every meeting, and I understand that, and we'll do our best to get the majority of you there. But if you could send me dates that you might have a trip or a conflict in a meeting or whatever, please send me those dates, and I'll do my best to avoid those when we send out the doodle poll.
And would you guys prefer, Seth, where is the site in Colorado? I mean, that would be a flight to Denver, and then how close is it? Is it in Denver? Do you know?
The Cameo, it's over by
Yeah.
Grand Junction.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
Grand
like-
Junction. Yep.
Okay. So it might, I know some people like from the eastern or the western side of the state could possibly, it'd be almost as easy for you guys to fly into Rapid City. For those of like myself who are only 5 hours away, I could definitely drive over there. But also I want you to let us know if you would have a preference as to South Dakota or, and I think Arizona has a site too. Is that correct?
I think it was New Mexico.
Oh,
New
is it-
Mexico has the Raton Shooting Center.
Where's that at?
The NRA Whittingham Center. It's up in northern New Mexico.
And
Yep,
Arizona
that's the
does have a
Colorado
site
border.
as well too, but
Okay, I'm thinking of something that's not like super far away from an airport, right? I don't want to make it too difficult. I mean, South Dakota's is very close to their airport. I mean, like within a half hour.
go ahead, Andy.
I have a suggestion.
Okay.
What if you have Andy and Seth put together a couple suggestions? Because they probably know more than the rest of us. and
They
then come
do.
back.
I was just going to say, Christy, you and I can do a report on the Whittington Range.
That is true.
Oh,
We'll be at the Whittington Range in June. Amazing range, probably one of the largest in the country. They have the Ben Avery Range down in Arizona, which is also very, very large. As far as indoor ranges, I've been in some of those lately in Texas and in Florida that were unbelievably looked like Seth's factory up in Big Fork. I mean, they have a coffee shop and they have sandwich bars, and anyway, they're part of gun shops. I also met the designer of those ranges, the indoor ranges, at SHOT this year. Just happened chance meeting. Super nice guys. Told him what we were up to. He said if he can be any help, let him know. I don't know if that meant, contract or dollars. I think he's nice guy. He'd probably give us a little bit of just heads up, and then if we were to develop something, he might be a good resource. It's called Rush.
that's wonderful. So we'll just plan on you guys giving us a report from Whittington. So take, lots of pictures and send us notes that say wish you were here. But that would be great for you guys to kind of, take a look at that one so we can take that off. But Christy, I really liked your suggestion that we maybe have Seth and Andy kind of say, let's look at this one or let's look at that one. Because I don't know what I'm looking at this point. I mean, I shoot at the ranges here in Billings and am perfectly happy with that. But
So Seth and Andy, is that okay if you're on this subcommittee of two to decide, maybe where we should go, and then I can handle the rest of the logistics?
He's hard to work with, but I'm willing to try.
I'm also willing to make that sacrifice.
Okay, thanks, Seth.
Okay. Something I would suggest, I know that some of these ranges existed, a long time ago. Ben Avery's been around for a very, very long time. But are we looking at perhaps those ranges that came about through why this legislation came about? Are we focusing on those ranges, those big shooting ranges, because we might be able to meet with state staff and get their input on how it worked, how it didn't work, and learn from their experiences. So I'm wondering if you want to narrow it down to, what just went through recently with their legislation, like what you guys are looking at here.
I think
Or
I'll
do you
leave that
still
up
want
to
to-
Seth and Andy, but you guys may want to be talking to Nephi as well.
Yeah, I think Andy's probably on the same page, but I think we're looking at some larger facilities, something maybe we don't have in the state if we're going to go that direction, and it's going to be more of a full service destination type range. I think that's where we need a little bit more visibility into how it's run, the costs, etc. So I think that would be the focus for what we're looking at, is sort of a unique, larger facility destination type range that would be, close enough for us to get to and accessible and I think beneficial to the committee to get an idea of what that might look like.
Okay.
And the other thing, Deb, you and I may look at as we go forward with this is maybe not necessarily a field trip, but maybe just planning one of our meetings up in the Flathead and allowing Seth and Andy and Courtney to be our tour guides at that time, or down here in Billings, where I can bring people and we can, bring in local people then to discuss what's going on. But I really like the idea of what you guys are already doing, and you guys please, add in here of having some of these ranges where they can zoom in and talk to us about this and, that path that you're already going on as well.
And like I said, we're still exploring other states to present to this
Yes.
group as well. So we're looking at that. Okay, let's see. We don't need to worry about selecting future meeting dates here. I will get that doodle poll out ASAP. So tomorrow, or well, it depends on when Representative Stevens Crow and I can get together. So we'll get together as soon as possible, and then that doodle poll will come out as soon as possible. So the action items I have, let me just pull this up. The action items I have is that I'll be meeting with Representative Stevens Crow to narrow down those dates a little bit better, look at the interim committees to make sure we avoid those dates, and also wait to hear from each one of you on what dates you cannot make it, if you already have plans and vacations and whatnot. After I get all that information, I'll be sending out a doodle poll. So if you could get me those dates ASAP, that would be great. And then I'll be sending out a doodle poll for the rest of the dates. Let's see.
Deb, I have a quick question. Are you talking about the dates for May, or are you talking about the rest of the year?
Rest of the year.
You don't want to see my calendar. It's busy.
Rest of the year, we need to nail these. And like I said, things might change as we go forward. We might say, or you might say, you don't need a August date, for instance, or there's not enough that we've done to have another date. So, it's going to be tweaked as we go, but I'd love to know what dates you guys can't make it, and I'll work around that. Then I'm going to work with all three subcommittees, the PR subcommittee, survey, and the field trip subcommittee. Actually, I'm going to wait, since you're a subcommittee of two, I'll let you guys just come to me with whatever needs you have that I can help you with. But the survey subcommittee and the PR subcommittee, I'll send out some doodle polls for dates where we can meet. The survey one's going to probably come up real quick, so we could get that survey out, and I'll work with FWP staff on that as well to make sure that they can make those dates. And then let's see, what else do I have here? And then Lena will get me the information as soon as she can that you requested, Christy, and I'll get that out to the group. And I think that is all I had, other than the timeline in general. Again, not just the dates, but the content of that timeline. I'll work with Representative Stevens Crow on that and tidy that up and get that out to you guys as well.
Wonderful. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
Can you just go over the members of the survey committee one last time?
It is Seth is chairing it, and it's Christy, yourself, Mitch, Senator Curdy, and Rich.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll work to get you guys together on the, I'll help Seth pull together some dates, and I'll sit on it too, and so will Renee, so we can help you guys with whatever you'll need from us. And then maybe I'll ask for public comment one more time before turning it over to you, Representative. So there are 4 attendees in the public. Does any member of the public have any feedback they'd like to offer to the task force? Please raise your hand. I am not seeing any. So they're just observing. Okay, Representative, do you have anything else you'd like to add, or?
Well, again, I just want to say thank you to you, Deb, and to your staff. You guys are amazing. I just really appreciate all the work that you're doing. And just to remind everybody, you guys have got my email address, members of the staff, members of the public, the general public that are watching. If you guys have comments, please, we'd love to hear from you as well at this time. But if you've got any other ideas or things that we've missed, please let us know. And that's all that I have at this time. Does anybody else have anything that they want to add? I think it's good. So
Okay.
with that, everyone, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Okay, look out for lots of emails from me.
Keep an eye out.
Perfect.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you all.
Have a good evening.